Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and I can't believe this channel has officially gone over 6,000 subscribers. We just took a pause from the original video's intro. This is just me to come here to you guys and apologize for the poor video quality that came up. I do sincerely apologize for that because I want to make sure that every video I do really is gonna be good. For those that maybe have already caught the video, I really do apologize for the bad quality. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this a lot more. Again, I really do apologize, and I really take all feedback seriously, and I want to make sure I provide you guys the best content. So hopefully this video can really do much better, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Please, at any moment or any times, leave comments, feedback, and I'll make sure to really implement those things and changes to improve every content I bring to you guys. So let's go right back into that video. Last time we did the Pulsar X2H video with the mouse. They also sent me out their PCMK 2 HE a 10 keyless Hall effect board. So we're gonna have to see how does this perform and compare it to a lot of the other competitors out there, especially as the market is getting bigger and it's getting a lot more saturated. So let's go right into the unboxing and sound test, of course, and please make sure to like and subscribe. So starting off with the unboxing of the Pulsar PCMK 2HE. Now, thank you again, Pulsar, for sending me this out because really I was excited to try this thing and see what this board was all about. I was really excited to see what Pulsar did, and to be fair, I'm Korean. I really was excited to work with a Korean company. They sent me out the Pulsar PCMK 2HE as well as the mouse, and one thing I can note is that a lot of their packaging is really well done. The PCMK, sorry, I can see that the packaging is like a nice boxing and everything. Even like the manual and like the trading card that they're providing for it is actually really cool. The only thing though is that where the accessories are, I really think they could have done a better job with that, even providing some extra switches. They do provide a nice long braided cable, which is super nice to see, but the like switch puller, keycap puller is just mediocre. It's like one that you get with any board. So it would have been nice to have those extra things. I think that's just what would make a brand a little bit standing out in terms of packaging. Now, the board itself. So we have that nice ASMR taking off the back plastic, and the first thing I noticed is that the bottom of the board is like a plastic silicone-ish build, like rubber almost. That's what it feels like. In terms of the quality, plastic quality, it does feel like it's a decent quality, not like a cheap plastic. And the top is aluminum. Of course, we're going to have to weigh this board before we go into a sound test. So this board comes out to a total weight of 974 grams. So let's start with the teardown of the board. So what I mean is, first I'm going to take off some keycaps and check to see if this is any flex cut. Right now we can tell there is no flex cut, and that's usually the case for most Hall effect boards. But just in case, I'd like to check. The reason being, some boards lately are doing flex cuts, which I'm not a big fan of, and you're going to have to remove the screws on the board to be able to access the inside of the board. So which keys do you have to remove? You should have to remove the F1, F2, F7, F8, the keys beside the pause, the control windows on the left, and the bottom right arrows, and then you can easily remove the top. So once you remove the top, and we can look at the bottom and see that it actually has a silicone dampening. So they do have a really strong, again, a thick silicone dampening on the bottom, and the bottom casing itself is like a plastic, but the plastic does feel like it's almost like like a rubber made plastic. So it isn't like super fragile, and I think it's a much better quality than most might think it is for a plastic board, right? Now this is not flex cut on the PCB as well, and I believe it is going to be 1.6 millimeter. Unfortunately, I just wasn't able to measure it because my measuring tool was out of battery. I did order new ones. The stabilizers on these are also actually plate mounted stabilizers, so not screw in. And interestingly enough, the spacebar is actually backwards. I was kind of surprised to see that. One thing I did notice is that they're not using regular lube in terms of the lubing for the stabilizer wires and the housing. Instead, it looks like it's like grease, so like 105, which is not the greatest, and you really want to have 205, like something thick, because stabilizers really need something thick to really help with the sound. Now we're going to do 2 layers of tape mod, and of course we're going to have to punch holes in to put this back together. And then I really do want to fix up the stabilizers as well. So what we're going to do is remove all the keycaps where the stabilizers are. So there's a total of 5. I'm going to grab my syringe with the Crytox 205 G0 because I want something thick. Actually, technically, it's my Crytox 205. So I want to use something thick to be able to fill it up. As I was mentioning, it looked like they were using a really thin like grease instead of lube, which is not great for stabilizers. It really doesn't help with the wires. It really does make a lot of the tinging noise. You really want to use something thick. Use either 205, or you can even go and get BDZ, and BDZ on the wires itself will really help a lot as well. This is my personal thoughts, and this is kind of what I do myself. 205 usually works, and once I'm done with like adding in all of the lube, you should really be able to hear the difference when I go into the modded sound test, which we are going to right now. Now, we've done the unboxing, we've done the sound test, and what are my thoughts? So, the switches that they use for this one, honestly, stock-wise, were not great. I really thought the stock switches for the Gateron switches were mediocre. The sound-wise, like, do you guys hear this? It's very scratchy. I would have loved to see them really improve these switches. It would have been nice to get something a little bit better. Like, even after looping them, it still sounds and feels a bit scratchy, which is kind of unfortunate. I think back like maybe last year, that would have been okay, and that would have been a little bit more of the norm. Now it's kind of like you kind of really have to make the switches much smoother, much more crisp, and feel a lot better. And honestly, in a way, you don't even need to lube them, kind of thing. Like, look at the Labs T switch, look at the Gion Raw. A lot of them really don't need the extra lubing. It just helps a lot. It's unfortunate that these ones, like, you really do have to lube them. Now the board itself, though, I gotta admit, I was kind of impressed. The bottom silicone based, and then the like plastic build on top of it with like the aluminum on top, really not bad. I'm quite impressed of how they decided to do this build itself. It almost feels like it's like a low profile, but it's not a low profile because the switches themselves are actually just regular, and then the board itself is really thin. Like, I was quite surprised with how they decided to do this, and find it interesting, honestly. It does have the different like sound dampening that you really need in the board, but overall I think that they did a good job, but could still use improvement. I would love to see, you know, a little bit more in terms of like the switches being upgraded. The software is, we're gonna have to go into that, of course, and really see how it's like, but in overall, everything of this board in terms of the typing feel is okay, but again, feels scratchy and almost feels like it's just like not incredibly well done in terms of that, like for typing purposes. Gaming wise, we're gonna have to really go in depth more and look at it. So let's go right into, you know, the review as well as comparing this with other competitors and what it's like gaming. So let's go right into that. So we're going to go into an in-depth look at this board. What my thoughts are. Now, the board itself is quite interesting. As I was mentioning, in terms of like my mid thoughts, the whole sound profile and everything was really not great. I do appreciate that they have that lighting there for the Pulsar section. And this whole board with like the build itself is okay because the bottom portion of the silicon and like what they're doing in general has a lot of dampening and it's well built. It's not like it's a cheap build quality at all. You're getting a top quality like build for the whole board itself. It's just that the switches in these boards are just unfortunately not great. When I use these switches and I really compare it with a lot of the other boards that I've tried, the magnetic switches feel like they're using a very, very old, like the old Gateron rail switches and then just kind of renamed it Gateron X Pulsar. I don't think that was the best idea. I think that Pulsar, especially when you look at their software, which we'll go into soon, you will see that they do have other options of switches that they have available that is still compatible and technically they've done all like the whole synchronizing for it, everything. The thing is though, these switches were just quite old. It feels old and it doesn't feel very, very great to use. I personally think that they could have done a lot better with them. When I use this board, in terms of the typing like feel, the switches just feel super scratchy. Like I can't really get used to how typing on them is. It just does not feel great to me, especially if you come from the side of custom keyboards, really nice mechanical switches. It really does not feel great to type on. It's just my personal preference. I really don't think that it's super, super good to really type on. But in terms of gaming performance, yeah, it worked fine, right? Like I'm going to go into more of the footage and everything, but it really did work fine with it. Now, I think that in total though, maybe they should have gone a different way with this board. I think instead of using the regular profile, they might have been able to actually go with something completely different. And I kind of want to show you guys that comparison with this one because I think the whole layout of the build and like the thing of like how they did it, it has potential, but it's just missing like the extra features that really it could have been better. I do appreciate that they provide the feet, allows you to have different angles. It is a bonus, right? And I think a lot of plastic boards provide that a lot more than, say, metallic boards. One thing I'm grabbing right now is the low profile board that I have, which is a low profile magnetic keyboard, and kind of showing you guys the actual profile of the boards each. I think that they could have actually went with a low profile completely with this board instead of the regular profile keyboard. Honestly, in terms of the thickness of how this board is, it's actually quite similar. They could have really just gone with doing a low profile version, getting a nice Jade Pro low profile switch and then changing it up with like low profile keycaps. This could have been a really well done board. And I'm not sure if there are other low profile magnetic switches that would work with the North Pole, because these are North Pole switches, and in general this Pulsar board will work with North Pole magnetic switches. If you could get low profile switches and low profile keycaps, this might be a really cool grab because it would sound really good. I think the build quality wise, it would sound amazing compared to say like the Newfie. And I think they would have done a really good job with it. If they're going with the regular profile, maybe they should have actually had it a little bit different with the newer switches. This really reminds me of like the old Gateron rail switches. It is an incredibly old switch, which I'm not a big fan of because of how scratchy they are. The springs scratch a lot. I lubed the springs a lot just to see if I get rid of them, and unfortunately I still didn't. One thing nice though is that these things barely have any stem wobble. Sorry, my camera is just not focusing really well on that, but as you can see here, it has like almost no wobble due to the rails and how it goes into the sides of the housings, which is nice, right? Nice to see that you don't get any, stem wobble. You don't want that when you are gaming, especially those that are very sensitive to that. But if I'm going to be getting a board at this price range, which we're going to go into a little bit later, I really think that they should have provided a little bit more with that and better switches with it, like the L Labs T switch, Geon Raw, or the even just the Jade Pros would have been nice to have. Next thing I want to do though is show you guys how the backlighting looks in this board, because if you're getting a gaming keyboard, most of the people will appreciate having some nice back RGB. So let me go show you guys like the
actual RGB accuracy in terms of the color, as well as how bright it is. Now, going right into it, so let's go and see what this board is like with the black RGB. I personally think that the lighting isn't that bright. The Pulsar logo lighting is super bright. You see the whole Pulsar logo, but each letters, it's not that bright. I think the way that the switches are and the RGB in terms of the backlight, it's not the brightest. You can see how it's not incredibly bright. Like I'm working with the different brightnesses. It's at the max brightness right now, and even with my camera lens, like you're not really catching the full lighting on it. Even in person, you will notice that it's not the brightest board out there. I've had other brighter boards, like I know how bright it can get, right? I've tested it with key booms, you know, like Jade, like the Phantoms, and they were incredibly bright. These ones are very accurate in terms of the color, right? Because you don't get the different color disfiguration from the switch coloring, but it definitely is not the brightest keyboard. You do get some nice backlighting, but it's not going to be bright, so keep that in mind. Now going into the website, so this is how much it is, $159.95 USD. It is definitely not on a very cheap side of Hall effect boards. You're really looking at now going into the higher end of Hall effect boards, and I will have to of course compare this with other boards out there and you'll see it, but definitely not the cheapest. Of course, what will make up for it will be the build quality, materials, and the software. So we're gonna have to see that. Now, this is their switch, right? This is the Gateron X Pulsar magnetic switch. It's got the dual rails, which is supposed to be really good, but unfortunately, it is very scratchy, even after you lube it. And that's not something you want to see. This board does provide, they say, proper 8K, right? So you get 8K in, out, in terms of like the information of data. Very, very good to see. They do provide a lot of good high density like dampening. The PBT, double shot PBT keycaps as well. I think in general, I like the build quality of this board. I like the design of the board. It is a really nice, cool design. As I was saying, it's, oh, and it is also, sorry, I actually misspoke earlier. It's North and South Pole hot swappable, which is really good to see. They provide you a software, which we'll go into a bit later. I do like the design. A TKL design like this is really nice. I actually think this would have been nicer as like a hybrid board where you can use it as like a low profile or a high profile keyboard. It would have been really cool. But going into support, like you just download it, go into that's the PCMK 3, which is like a 60%. You have to go into PCMK 2 HE, click on the version you have, and then if you press download, it will actually lead you to the website. So if we go into the website, boom, we have the web app available. So it is a web app. It's super easy to use. I thought you had to download stuff, but nope, you just click on it and it actually leads you to their website. It says visit downloads for like firmware upgrades, which as you'll see when I go in there and I try to download stuff, I'm not sure exactly what is going on. It's not allowing me to download a lot of the stuff or be able to run it. I'm not too sure the process of what I need to do. It is nice though that they are constantly updating this thing and, you know, having the ability to do stuff, which is really good. And they want to make sure the bugs are gone, which is a very good thing to have for sure. Now going straight into the web app. It's a really well done web app. Very simple, very good UI, very easy to see exactly the things that you need. Great stuff. Would have been nice though if you're doing the lighting changes to be able to see it on screen. I think that would have been a nice bonus to have. But, you know, you don't have it, that's fine. You can see it in front of you on your board anyways, but just a nice feature. You do get key mapping, so you have like the function layer, main layer. Very, very good. You actually get your profile keys. This is super important. Every Hall effect keyboard needs to have profiles. You need to have a gaming profile. You need to have a typing profile. Your gaming profile and your typing profile is not going to work the same. I'm telling you guys now, if a board doesn't have it, you shouldn't grab it because of that. The reason I say it is because the more and more I use Hall effect boards, the more I realize typing with a gaming setting just does not work and it completely screws up your typing. You will end up making a lot of typos, which is not good. Now, there are these different presets, which is great to see for the LEDs. So you can make these changes. You can actually change the coloring dependent on the profile. So that way, when you press and change profiles, you can easily see which profile to change to and make, like whenever you choose which profile, you'll know which one it is. So you can visually see which profile am I using. Am I using typing or am I using gaming? Very good to see. Now, if you go into advanced, you can actually set up like those different advanced keys like dynamic keystroke, mod tap, quick tap, all those things are available. Performance is where you go to actually set up your actuation points. So you can set up actuation, and you can also go into see here. There's all these different switches. So if you change up your switches, like it will have like which switches are already, well done and synchronized with this board. And then you can also go and click in rapid trigger mode, which allows you to change the actuation points depending on what you want it to be. So like you're pressing and releasing, you can change that. Also offers different macros, which is really nice to see. I know some Hall effect boards are missing macros. Good to see that one. You can also change the polling rate on this board. Sometimes, maybe a game you're playing doesn't work well with the specific polling rate. You can definitely change it and reduce it if need be. Now, going into Keyboard Inspector, we can actually test that ourselves to kind of see. It's not going to be perfect in terms of testing, but we can see here that you're getting a very high scan rate. So how does that work? When you're working with a keyboard, especially Keyboard Inspector doesn't have the ability to give you like an accurate description of it or a reading of it. But if you have a high scanning rate, chances are your numbers are going to be kind of a bit skewed. You're going to sometimes get 8K, sometimes you'll get even more than 8K. But if you are getting the more, it just is meaning that you have a good scan rate while you have the 8K polling at the same time. So this is something really good to see with this board, that you do have that full 8K available. Now, this is where I was kind of testing out to see how to set this up for super gliding. Now, I like using this Super Glide Trainer website to really test to see what my pressing is like and then what changes do I need to make. Do you see those numbers there? There's something really interesting and weird happening with this that I was really curious about, and hopefully Pulsar can really go into their software and fix this, because I noticed that after a certain amount of times that I pressed a button, then the frame rates on the press changed significantly, where it was no longer at that consistency anymore. I'm not sure why it's doing that. This is a good tester, and I think Super Glide Trainer really does test and get the accuracies well in terms of your frame rate, in terms of your press. For some reason with the Pulsar, every time I do enough times, like after a certain amount, it starts to go into this really like bad frame rates with the key press, where you'll see like it's way off when it shouldn't be. Pulsar really needs to go in to check this and make the update to make sure that that isn't something that's happening anymore, because that means that the board is having issues after a certain amount of pressing. I'm not sure the reason though. Now, going into Apex Legends, right? As I was showing you, I did the Super Glide tester, set it up, and the board works amazing. I'm not having any issues. I actually enjoyed using the board quite a bit. Just forgetting about like the switches and how they're feeling. In general, with the gaming and picking up items, right? Like the benefit of Hall effect boards is really picking up items very, very, very quickly and having that little benefit, like plus compared to say your competitors. I don't know why, again, in this trading range, like the firing range, that some of the damages weren't spawning, but I wasn't having any issues with the super gliding. It was working incredibly well. Picking up items was super, super quick. I actually really like this board. Like, out of the boards that I've tried in terms of comfortability, where the angle and everything, and like where the buttons are, like the keys are, I felt that it was super, super comfortable to use. And as you can see, like with the aim smoothing, right? That's aim smoothing in Apex, where you can actually reduce recoil. Another way is really just spamming the AD with a Hall effect board. Sometimes helps a little bit. It doesn't like fully reset recoil. So say like when you're doing the recoil smoothing, or when you're doing jitter aiming, but it does help a little bit, which I really do like to have with the Hall effect boards, just in case, sometimes I use it, a lot of times I don't. But once I stopped doing it a little bit, I noticed that, like, in the beginning, as you guys saw, super gliding was super easy, and I was doing it quite a bit, and then all of a sudden I just couldn't really do them well anymore. So I'm not too sure exactly the reasoning why, like, sometimes the presses seem to be really good, and then all of a sudden the frames kind of drop on it, which then I can't really pull it off anymore. So Pulsar, when you guys see this video, please check the software and make those updates, because it seems like there's something off with the actuation in terms of how the keyboard is reading it, and there are points where the frame is dropping with this one. It's not like consistently all the time that it's dropping, but it's like after a certain amount of press, it seems that there are points where it does drop for a little bit and then it comes back. So it would be nice to see them really fix that issue in terms of this board, because you really want to have it very, very consistent in terms of what your frames are getting. Now, one thing I was trying to do was set up quick tap, because I wanted to do a test, show you guys a video using Valorant, kind of see how breaking is like and using it. For some reason, I wasn't able to actually get it set up and working. I'm not sure what was going on with it. It might be due to like some kind of firmware update that I needed to do that it didn't go through, and I didn't know how to actually do it, but I wasn't able to get the quick tap working on mine. It wouldn't let me press done or save it. And as you see here, it kept saying like it supports up to 10 quick tap, and yet it wouldn't save. So I'm not sure what's going on, and hopefully this can get fixed really quickly as well. Now we're going to go right into a game of Apex Legends and show you guys kind of what I think is really good with this board. So in general, what Hall effect boards are really good for. So quick off landing, we actually had a team with us. And the first thing I did was, as you saw right there, I picked up an item super quick. Picked up that gun that I needed because one gun wasn't going to be enough for this fight. So I went, grabbed 2 guns very quick, faster than my teammate could even. Though to be fair, I should have probably left a gun for them. But see here, open up a box, grab the armor swaps that I need to. See another team come in. I'm going to quickly, do what I need to, shoot the arrow to get the information that we need for the scans. I messed up there, though. I should have actually held a better angle there. But as you can see, there are benefits with Hall effect boards that really is beneficial. I'm able to make these special like pickups that are quick. I can quickly open boxes, do the armor swaps that I need, get back into the fight, though I'm really messing up a lot, but the movement as well is helpful too, where I'm able to quickly, go through each box, pick up the items, jump up, use my skills as I needed, and then quickly farm all the items that I'm going to pick up for this game. These are benefits that a Hall effect board provides, right? If you have same ping, everything equal, you do have a little bit of that advantage. Now, in terms of, I would say using your skills, it does help a lot. If you have your actuation a bit too quick, not so great, because then you might accidentally mispress it. I've done that a lot of times too when it was too sensitive. But here too, like quickly grabbing the items, opening up a box to farm what I need. Very, very helpful to have, and I think it's very useful. Like I used to be a very slow farmer, and with the Hall effect boards, I found that I'm a lot quicker now compared to what I used to be. Now, this is where the games, I'm going to show you guys what I mean by movement, shooting. That doesn't mean you're going to become the best player in the game. Right there, right? If you make mistakes in a game, same as any other keyboard, doesn't matter. You could have the best keyboard in the world, you're still going to make mistakes. You're still not going to be better than everyone, unless like you got a controller with, the cheats that are available that you can just, plug into your controller to use. If you make mistakes like I did, right, where I slid back into the portal and then ran into all 3, you're still going to get down. You're still going to make mistakes, and you're still going to die and lose the game. So Hall effect board does not mean that you're invincible. It just means that you have a little bit of advantage, and at the highest competitive level, it does make a difference. Now, going into comparing this with other boards. So where does this land? As you see here, it's $160. It's 160 USD, which is really not cheap. You go and see and compare it, like what are the other boards that are out there that are, I'm going to try to compare more boards that are around the similar level, right? So we're going to start off with like all the different informations here. So you have it with its, South Pole, End Pole available, TKL, it's aluminum plastic build quality. So you get both aluminum and plastic, technically steel plate. You get wire connectivity, you get the web app and such. What does this one have very similar to, as I was mentioning before, right? The Newfie Air 75 HE. It's very similar in terms of build with the metal and the plastic. I think though, in terms of the actual plastic portion though, the Pulsars is better in terms of the quality. The Wooting 80 HE, it has a plastic version and a metal version you can choose depending on what you want. And then the Choki is a metal board, like full metal casing, which is really good. The web app on the Pulsar though, I have to admit, is probably one of the best ones I've tried so far. So is the Newfie. Like these are ones like the Wooting, all amazing web apps. They did a great job. The Mchos is actually pretty decent as well. I think for a cheap board, their software is very well done. Metal Geeks' software is also actually pretty decent. I think they've done a lot of work to make sure it's good, right? A lot of these boards now, AK is like everywhere. if you see this list of mine right now, you can see every single board here has 8K. There's not a board here without 8K available. So what does that mean? That means the current market, every single board is 8K. There shouldn't be a board that isn't 8K anymore. It doesn't work out as well anymore because even at the budget range, you can get an 8K board. Now, switch wise, these switches, I'm sorry, Pulsar, it's just not great. I don't like these switches. I really think they could have done a better job. Having like the other options would have been much better to have, especially when there's so many switches available now. The best switches out there, I think, are the Astrolink, the Owl Labs T, Geon Raw. Like, those are amazing switches. And I think, honestly, Pulsar could have really gone with other switches and it would have been better. I really think that they should have put that effort and to make a much better switch, because the market is moving in that way. And I'm sorry to say it, more and more people are going to get more, like, they're going to want very higher end switches instead. In terms of build quality though, right, if you compare the prices, the Choki is cheaper, the Newfie is cheaper, the Lumen Key even is like a very similar price or a bit cheaper, and you get a much kind of better build quality with the Lumen Key. The Lumen Keys is really well done. I really like how they did their case. It's incredible. It's a really high-end case. The Chill Keys as well, very good build. Wu-Ting's is like a lot more expensive. I see where these companies are, where like I get that, you know, it takes money to really support a good web app, and then we have to put that effort in. And, you know, even if the board and the cost isn't as expensive, you still have a lot of other things that are going into it, like the web app that requires support, and you have to pay staff to do it, right? You have to pay a developer to do it. I understand it, but I think the price wise, in terms of where this board is compared to the whole market, it's a little bit expensive. I think that they're really going to have to reconsider the pricing on this and really look into it, like compare themselves with the market at the moment. Unfortunately, just the market is getting saturated, and 0.1 millimeter distance and a Hall effect and a not great switch isn't going to work with a very high price. And I'm sorry to say that they really should look into that and make that fix.
Overall, I think the Pulsar is a decent build for what they decided to do with this board. I think there is a lot of room for improvement that they can make. One specifically, change out the switches to something better, something new. The software, really look into fine-tuning a little bit more to really get that 0.05 or even 0.02, which a lot of brands do. Some brands even go to the point of 0.01 millimeters. I think that would really be a huge improvement. If they're going to compete this board with a lot of the boards out there in the market, I think they really should look into possibly even adding like the gamepad features. I heard there's some certain companies out there actually looking to do that, while Wu-Ting already has it, and I think that's going to be one of the key things that really could make them different in the market. But again, like Wu-Ting already has it and stuff, so it'd be nice to see them kind of like really work on this and to improve it a lot more, especially the software, especially seeing that they are their own company, like a big company out there that has been around for a while. To really put that effort into the software would be lovely to see. And of course, again, change out the switches and really work on that. So I'll have the links in the description. Go check it out for your guys selves. I gave you guys my opinion and compared to the competitors, but of course you should check it out yourself as well, and go catch the other videos I got, because I'll have to catch you guys next time.